Chapter 6.
Jake had a peregrine falcon morph we'd used before. Marco and Cassie had morphed ospreys. Rachel had a bald eagle. So we all should have been able to fly up to the mountains. But there are millions of bird watchers in this country. They're very cool people because they never hurt a bird. They don't hunt. They just get pleasure out of watching birds fly or nest. Bird watchers would think it was very, very weird if they saw a red-tailed hawk, a bald eagle, a falcon, and 2 ospreys all flying together as if they were on a mission. And some of those gentle bird watchers might be not-so-gentle controllers. "Bird watchers!" Marco snorted as he tramped over the carpet of pine needles deeper into the woods. "We could fly, but no, we have to walk. 20 miles, probably." Cassie's farm has a lot of open grass areas, and it borders on a national forest. The national forest goes on forever. It stretches from the edge of town all the way up into the mountains. It's all pines and oaks and elms and birches. Wilderness, really. Thousands of square acres of it.
"Oh, come on, Marco,"
Cassie chided gently.
"It's an opportunity to try out a new morph."
"Yeah," Jake chided. "Instead of being home doing math homework, you get to turn into a wolf. Are you going to tell me you'd rather be doing equations?" "Let's see," Marco considered. "Math? Or becoming a wolf and going off to find aliens? Maybe I should ask the school counselor what she thinks. It's such a common problem.
I'm sure she'll have some good advice."
Since it wasn't a good idea for us all to travel to the mountains as birds, the others needed a morph that could travel far and fast through the woods. And there were the 2 injured wolves in Cassie's barn. Jake stopped, looked around, and announced, "This is good." We were a few hundred yards into the woods. I came to rest on a low branch of a huge oak tree. The hawk in me took note of a squirrel a few branches up. He started chittering and shrieking his little squirrel warning. "Danger! Danger! Hawk! Hawk!" I gave him a look. He twitched, stuck the acorn he was holding into his cheek, and took off at full speed. "What I don't get is why I have to be a girl wolf," Marco grumbled.
"We had 1 male and 1 female,"
Cassie explained for the 10th time.
"If 2 of us morphed into the male, we'd have 2 males. 2 male wolves might decide they had to fight for dominance."
"I could control it," Marco said.
Marco, you and Jake already fight for dominance, and you're just ordinary guys.
Rachel pointed out.
"She's right,"
Cassie said sadly.
"I'm afraid your primitive male behavior might slow us down."
"Hey, when I morphed into a gorilla, I handled that gorilla brain okay, didn't I?" Marco demanded.
Sure, Marco,
Rachel said. She batted her eyes.
but that was different. You and the gorilla were already so much alike.
Cassie and Rachel gave each other discreet high fives. "Hugely funny," Marco said. "We flipped a coin, fair and square," Jake said. "I got to be the male. You're one of the females. Get over it." "Let me see that coin again," Marco said suspiciously. Jake just smiled. "Let's just do this. Cassie, you want to go first to see what it's like?" We had learned from hard experience that morphing can be extremely disturbing. Jake had morphed into a lizard and been almost overpowered by the animal's fearful brain. The same had happened to Rachel when she'd morphed a shrew. She still had nightmares about the shrew experience. Its fear, and worse, its hunger for bugs and rotting flesh. On the other hand, Jake had morphed into a flea, and according to him, it was kind of a big nothing. Like being trapped inside a very old, very bad video game, where you could barely see anything. The flea brain had been too simple to make trouble.
"Okay, I'll let you know."
Cassie closed her eyes and concentrated. Then she opened them again.
"Wait, let me get down to my morph suit first. I don't want to get tangled up in my clothes."
She removed everything but a leotard, kicked off her shoes, and stood barefoot on the pine needles. The first change was her hair. It went from very short black to shaggy silver in just a few seconds. It traveled down from her head, down her neck, over her shoulders, around her neck. Long, shaggy fur. Then her nose bulged out. I shuddered. You never really get used to seeing people morph. It is something straight out of a nightmare, even though Cassie seems to have some kind of talent for it. She's never quite as gross as the others. I guess it's because she's so close to so many animals. Maybe she just has a special feel for them. Still, as the wolf's snout began to push out from her face, it was not a pleasant sight. Her ears grew furry and pointed. Then they slid straight up the side of her head, till they almost touched the top. Her eyes went from brown-black to golden-brown. All over her body, the fur replaced the bright pinks and greens of her leotard. A tail suddenly shot out from behind. I could hear the grinding of her bones as they rearranged. Her upper arms shortened. Her lower arms grew longer. Fingers shriveled and disappeared, leaving behind only stubby black nails. There was a sickening crunch as her knees changed direction. Her legs shrank and thinned and grew fur. Suddenly, she fell forward, no longer able to stand erect. It had taken about 2 minutes. Cassie was now a wolf.
How was it?
Jake asked. Cassie jerked suddenly at the sound of his voice and spun around to face him. She bared her teeth and snarled a warning that would have made a Texan back up. She had very impressive teeth.
Let's all stand really still,
Jake said.
Good idea,
Marco agreed.
really, really still. Because those are really, really big teeth.
Everyone stood motionless. They had all been through similar experiences. We knew what was happening. Inside the wolf's head, Cassie was fighting to gain control of the wolf's wild instincts.
Sorry,
She thought-spoke at last.
I have it now.
Are you sure?
Rachel asked warily.
Yes, it's fine. I'm fine. In fact, it's really kind of wonderful. The sense of hearing. Wow, and my nose. Whoa, that's incredible. I've never morphed an animal with such a strong sense of smell.
Then I'm extra glad I put on deodorant.
Marco joked.
Who had bacon for breakfast?
Cassie turned her wolf head this way and that.
Rachel? Bacon? I thought you were going to go vegetarian.
Marco laughed at the guilty look on Rachel's face.
Ooh, busted by Cassie the Wonder Nose.
Let's get busy, Jake said. The 2-hour clock is now running. Tick-tock. One by one, they each stole a glance at me. I'm the handy reminder of what happens if you stay in a morph too long.